Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, welcome. If you are coming back, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you. My name is Cassie, and on this channel, we talk all things of healing, self-love, and self-care, and of course, becoming your dream woman. And on today's episode, we are going to talk about how I thought that my life was falling apart, but actually God was rebuilding it piece by piece. But before we get started with that, I just wanted to kind of give an update saying that I have been MIA for a while. I went on vacation, and then when I came back from vacation, kind of God was calling me to take a step back, to pause, to rest. There was a lot of heavy energies for upgrades and different things like that I was in the middle of, and He wanted me to focus on that. And so that's what I did. I respected that, He was calling me to rest and to allow the upgrades that was happening to come through and settle before, I got back to work. And so, He just recently called me back, and I just wanted to kind of give you an update with that too, because we're going to be doing only 3 videos a week. Yes, I have some, exciting news to share today. So as I said, I thought my life was actually falling apart, but it was actually God was rebuilding it, piece by piece. And there's been magical things that has been happening since the summer solstice. I will kind of fill in that a little bit later. Ever looked at your life and wondered, why me? Why does it seem like some people have it easy while, you may be constantly fighting battle after battle? Why does it feel like every time that you get close to completing something or, accomplishing something, that, that door ends up closing on you? If you ever felt that way, this message is definitely for you. Most of my life, I generally believed that I was unlucky. I had so many things that were coming against me, and it was just like I couldn't get things to kind of change and stick for many, many years. Like my life was doomed to be difficult, doomed to be unlucky, doomed to have anything that could go wrong possibly happen, right? I thought maybe just one of those people who would always be on the struggle bus. But looking back now, I realized, something powerful, but it took me a long time to get here. And it took me, going through this process to be able to shift my perspective on things, to see that God wasn't punishing me. God was actually preparing me. That realization has helped, change my life. You may say, preparation for what? Well, God has called me to work in His kingdom. That you have to be a strong individual. To become a strong individual, He puts your karma in the front of your life. When I was younger, I went through a lot of tough times, and that was my fronted karma for me to kind of work through so I could be here today to help God bring in the new world that we are in the middle of creating. But I couldn't do that from a weak place. If my feelings were hurt easily, or if I was easily being able to, change my opinion on things, God couldn't really use me, right? I had to become stronger, and kind of become stronger, you got to go through some dark times. And in some cases, I had to go through the depths of hell to kind of forge the woman I am today. I actually became a mother at a young age. Very little support, and I carried a lot of shame going forward because, people judged me. People assumed that they knew how my life would turn out. They would say were gonna not go well for me, that I ruined my life. But despite of that, I kept going. I kept, hard to try to be better, to become better. Was I a perfect parent in this process? Absolutely not. I made lots of mistakes, but I think everyone does on this journey of motherhood. I wish that I could have done some things differently. Yeah, I do. I wish I knew some things sooner. I wish I could have go back and do things a little differently. But what I can honestly say is that I did my very best with the tools, knowledge, and the emotional capacity that I had at that time. At that time, I was 6 months pregnant when my son's father passed away. So I became a single mother at the age of 15 with nobody. Like, from thinking that you had supports to then having no support, it was tough. Doing the best that we can is what we are actually all doing with our current operating beliefs that we have. And our beliefs are something that we inherited from our families, our environments, and our experiences. And so the problem is that, many of our beliefs that aren't currently helping us anymore. Ongoing beliefs are keeping us stuck in a very low, dark place. I ended up going through battles that nobody could see, just like anybody else, right? So there were seasons of my life where I felt completely broken. Like, I struggled fear, and that was like fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not having enough money, because I would struggle with money trying to support my son, when I was young, making $5.15 an hour. Stuck with me for many, many years, and I kind of just recently was able to free myself from that by working through my money mindset. So those things that happen in your younger age sticks with you, and it may not be consciously, but it's like subconsciously. And then you kind of think like, oh my goodness, if I do this or I change this, that may result back into that time frame, right? Of me struggling again. And so that mindset and having that fear, right, the fear on top of fear, could keep you stuck in these dynamics for many, many years. And so had a fear of making mistakes, especially because everybody was already judging me of being a young mom, and I was gonna, mess my life up, and, all of these things. So I was really just trying to my hardest to make sure that I did my best for the kids so they could grow up to be good humans. And I always tried to make sure that I did my best to motivate them to do better, to do more, to try hard. Could absolutely feel achieve anything. And underneath all of that, even something a bit deeper, there laid my low self-worth, my low self-esteem. And that low self-worth came from all of the judgments and having the child young and all of these different things. And even probably earlier on in my childhood as well, when even the teachers were kind of giving me a hard time because my handwriting wasn't the best, and just different things. And I don't think a lot of people actually realized how damaging these different things could be to somebody. And so when you're feeling that it's enough, you're feeling that you're not pretty enough, that you're not successful enough, you're not smart enough, you're not worthy enough, that does, hold you back. That makes you very vulnerable for different situations to come. So unworthy that now you are open to accepting things that you shouldn't, or staying into situations longer than you should. When you carry these beliefs long enough, they start shaping your entire reality. Make decisions from fear. You tend to stay small and not even realize it. You start settling for things that you never thought you would. Low self-worth is like doing a lot of internal damage because you keep on replaying these things in your head. At least I did. You tolerate things that you shouldn't. You stop believing that life can actually get better for you because of the different circumstances. And that's where I found myself for many years, smiling on the outside, but struggling internally. And it came a breaking point. At this point, it's COVID time. And I just want to kind of start off with, my marriage wasn't as at a strong point even before COVID. We were struggling for years, even before COVID actually brought on some more stress. It brought on a lot of uncertainty. It brought on pressure in all areas of my life. You know, I was trying to be everything for everyone: a mom, a wife, a teacher, a provider, a caretaker, a problem solver. And, you know, eventually I reached my limit. You know, there was a lot of problems that came about with COVID, right? Just ended up, you know, going through a separation. He ended up moving out. And during this process, the fear and everything, because I was scared, right? This is the first time that I've been by myself in 20 years, because I was kind of paying the bills by myself at this point. And, you know, there wasn't any child support or anything like that. It was just, I was handling things. I had the kids, and he handled things when he had the kids, and that's just kind of how we were doing things. I was nervous. I was scared of failing again, right? I was scared that I would be struggling, because it seemed like we were struggling together. So like struggling financially together, then I'm going to definitely struggle by myself, because I'm taking a whole pay out of it, right? Slowly, and allow the fear to take hold. What ended up happening was, you know, one day I was like at my wit's end with everything going on, and I broke down in my basement on the floor, crying out to God and saying, hey, you know, I need help. I've heard for years now that you don't give people any more than what they can handle. And I said, I'm at my wit's end. I can't handle any more of whatever this is. I was crying and everything, and it wasn't a prayer, you know. It was just me talking to him and saying, hey, you know, I truly, you know, need you. There was some things that was happening, and, you know, a friend of mine came and called me, and we weren't even like talking regularly at this point. This call came out of like the blue, and she told me, you know, like, hey, I've been up, I can't sleep, you know, and I've got this urge to tell you something. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know. She's like, I think Donnie, and that was, you know, that's my son's father. She's like, I think Donnie was up, you know, talking to me and stuff and urging me to get your attention. I said, okay, you know, what's up? And so she kind of led me to watch some tarot readings, right? I'm a friend of hers. And so I started watching, and readings that these people were doing that I was watching was like, oh, yeah, I'm telling like my, you know, like I felt like they were talking to me, right? They were explaining through my story and things like that. That's basically how God started talking to me, is through the tarot. And I started, you know, talking more to God and getting to know him. I started reading the Bible and, you know, going through this thing. But in the meantime, while I was doing this, he was helping me. And I didn't even realize it at the time, to be honest, because like I said, this was all very new to me. But I didn't realize that helping me make better decisions with like my finances, and I believe he gave me grace, right? Because my money was going a bit further than what it ever seemed to be going. So with that call out to God, my healing journey began. And at first, you know, I thought I was just trying to heal. I didn't know any better. I didn't know where this journey would lead me. I just knew that I couldn't stay where I was, and I was willing to do whatever I needed to try to create a different life. Finally reached a point where, okay, you know, I've had enough. They say that you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And after like doing a bit of reflection on that, I'm like, yeah, that's basically what I've did. Attract anything different. And so I started doing some work with God, right? I started looking at the pain that I was in. I started examining my beliefs, and those beliefs kind of brought me down to a few rabbit holes, and you see where that belief is no longer serving us, right? Serving me, but also serving the collective as a whole. working through all of the trauma with God, and that I did this with God. I could say that I was looking to heal when I went to these different counselors, but unfortunately they weren't a good match for me. I couldn't get there. It seemed like we were just kind of going around in circles and like, oh, how are you feeling this week? And I would share what I said. Oh, okay. Not giving me any tools on what to do to like feel better, not giving me any tools on how to combat it or to, get to the stem of things. Like, it was not helpful at all. And I'm not saying that I'm against therapy. Maybe therapy is good for you, but the therapy that I have experience with was not a good fit for me. And so I'm glad that I allowed God to guide me on this journey of healing, because guess what? He worked through my relationship wounds, my financial fears, my abandonment issues, rejection, shame, all of it, you name it. And we went deep with it, okay? Healing isn't always peaceful. And healing is definitely, can be messy at times. It can be exhausting. And it can bring things up that you thought that you buried years ago. And that was like the key, right? Because I feel like when you go to therapy, especially the original therapy that we go to, they will only go as far as you can mentally go. God knows you, God knows me, God knows all of us, right? Even if you don't believe in God, God still, knows us. And he was able to free me of all of these things because he knew me. He knew me better than I knew myself. And so, there was times I would be healing things and I would get a breakthrough. I'm like, oh yeah, let's party. I'm done healing. And then he's like, oh, no, honey, we got something else to do, right? He would trigger me. He would make it whatever he needed to do to bring these feelings up for me to look at and to heal. That's what he would do. And so layer by layer, we were able to work through everything and bring me back closer to myself. Some of the great lessons that, God has showed me, I couldn't see prior to this, was healing wasn't just about recovering from my past. It was about so many other things, right? Like becoming a new version of myself. Because I didn't even know like how powerful that would be. And I never done it at a deep level. He showed me that, you can actually like heal from a situation, but then you can still also carry the identity that was created by that experience. So for example, if you heal the wound, but you still see yourself as a wounded person, then you're going to get stuck at a wounded version of yourself. I had to stop like identifying with that struggling version of myself, because I did for a long time. That abandoned version, the rejected version, the fearful version, the broken version. I had to begin seeing myself how God saw me: strong, capable, chosen, loved, worthy, valuable. Not because of what I accomplished, not because what I've earned, but because of who I already was. Of strength is actually a positive part. I thought I was strong, and I wore that badge like a badge of honor of like, yep, I carried all of this shit. I've gone through all of these things and I'm a strong bitch, so don't mess with me. Okay, that's how I used to carry myself. And I used to like think that I was such a soldier for that. Other side, that's not really something to be proud of, because unfortunately that strong version also carried a lot of weight behind her. A lot of that you wouldn't even know, because it's all like subconsciously that you have these different beliefs that are holding you back from becoming the version of you, from having the life that you want, from attracting the partner that you want, from making the money that you want. Doing all of this now, like, okay, I am strong because I've faced my battles. I have faced the darkness. I have faced my shadows, and I've overcame that. I have changed the version of me. And so now I can carry that badge of strong with honor, because it's not the strong of like, yeah, I'm strong because I've gone through the stuff. I'm strong because I've gone through this stuff and I've healed through these things. And that is amazing, because you have gone through some dark things in your life and you're still here with me, I praise you. Thank you for sticking with me, because this is going pretty deep. But I also want to say, I should have probably said this earlier on, that you are probably meant to be a generational curse breaker in your family, because I am. That's part of why God forefronted all of the karma to my life in the beginning, because he needed me to be able to go through the darkness, to be the light, and to heal through the darkness that my family has gone through over the years. If you have gone through some dark things and you're like, well, yeah, I've had bad luck, I can't seem to get where I want and things like that, you are definitely the generational curse breaker. You are the kingdom worker. You are the chosen one to do this work. And God is calling you to be the brave and courageous one, to step in and to say, yeah, I'll do it. Unfortunately, healing does take time. I was hoping that it was going to be like a quick fix thing. I kind of knew, because he does this flexion with you and stuff like that, to say, hey, take a pause and kind of reflect on where you've started and where you are. And so then you can see yeah, actually that has made me stronger. I've had so much growth, right? If you are deep into your healing journey, sometimes you don't really realize how far you've gotten. Right now, healing, we're still doing this, we're still doing that, and sometimes it's tough, to sit back and you're like, oh wow, yeah, we've taken down a lot of things, especially if you are that generational curse breaker. It's going to be a lot. I just want to give you a heads up. This type of healing is going to take some faith in God, right? It's going to take patience. And it's going to take trust. You're going to need to trust the process and know that there is, light at the end of this. Each breakthrough, high five, celebrate those things, because those are all amazing. But because he goes so deep and he's so personal with you, and just, he leaves nothing unhealed, such as every aspect, like I said, relationship, finances, your self-worth, your self-love, your mindset, your spiritual ways, everything we've gone through and looked at. And so it isn't just a quick hee ha ha surface level healing. No, this is very deep and very thorough. What changed in my life? Well, healing my trauma changed my life. Learning self-love changed my life. Building self-worth changed my life. Learning to care for myself changed my life. But perhaps the biggest transformation that happened is when I stopped trying to control everything and surrendered the journey to God. Because every time that I would try to force things, I would, create more struggle, more problems, more. And every time, I surrendered a little bit more, God actually showed me a better way. And, his way was actually better than what I could have ever imagined myself. God knows everything. God knows people's feelings for you. God knows, hears and sees all. Okay, goes before you to clear the path for you. Times when you're in this journey with God, it could take a little longer than what you thought. But I would say 3 years of healing, 40 years of trauma, is actually pretty damn fast. That is pretty amazing, because you know what? People still 7-8 years later are still going to therapy and still not even healed, right? Because they're not doing identity shifting. They're not getting to the root cause of things. They're staying surface level because they're at only where their mind can take them. And that's why doing this with God is so much better than doing it through the typical way of regular therapy. I've noticed fears became smaller. My shame started disappearing. The confidence started growing more. My joy actually returned. And for the first time in my adult life, I generally began to like the person that I saw in the mirror. And not just because of what I looked like, but because of who I actually became. I could see myself in such a different light. And that is so freeing and so amazing. Maybe you're watching this right now and you are feeling exhausted. You've gone through things that nobody actually knows about, or possibly even survived things that should have broken you, right? Maybe you're carrying wounds that you've been hiding for years. And I just want you to hear this. Your struggle does not mean that God has abandoned you. Your pain does not mean that you're unworthy. Your setbacks do not mean that your future is ruined. Sometimes the very things that destroy you is actually developing you. Remember, I said that you could be the generational curse breaker. You could be the chosen one. You could be the one that God wants to use in so many different ways. And so sometimes, going through all these heavy things, you don't see that, right? You just see that you've struggled and you take all of these things on personal. And so sometimes the person who goes through all of this is the one to break it for their family. And I think that may be you if you're watching this. And just know, healing isn't easy. It's going to require courage, honesty, and it's going to require some serious surrender. It's going to require you to be open to looking at parts of yourself that you would rather avoid, but God helps you to do that, but for that, because sometimes we try to not face things that we don't want to face. And that's like another good thing about doing it with God is, you can't say, oh, that I'm okay with that, right? Because then he'll do something to trigger you to get your attention. And then you're like, okay, God, okay, I'll do this. It's tough. And yes, you have to be brave and you have to be courageous. I just have to say that it is worth it all. Okay? Worth all of the struggle. It's worth all of the tears. It's worth all of the pain. It is worth everything. Because on the other side of this healing is a brand new you. And the other side of healing, you'll feel more freedom in being you and having more self-confidence in what you're doing. Feel peace. You'll more self-care and self-love for yourself because you will learn that. You'll become the person that God actually created you to be before the world took over and started going against you and making life hard. I can go from feeling broken, lost, scared, and completely overwhelmed in life to now feeling confident, peaceful, and hopeful about my future. Then I believe you can too, and God can help you do that because God definitely helps me. So keep going. Don't give up. Keep praying, keep healing, keep trusting God on this journey. And in many ways, it is just the beginning for you. And so I love you. God loves you. And I truly believe that the best days are still ahead of you. So smile and just know that this is going to change your life in more ways than you can possibly imagine. So I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.